Let's get into this student loan relief, student loan forgiveness here that Biden announced the other day. Obviously, I do not think this is enough. Those of you that have watched me for a long time know I think this is bullshit. I think he should have canceled all of it. That's how it should have been done, but he's not going to do that. And I'm going to explain to you why he won't do that in just a second. But let's look at that announcement a little bit here. And I don't know who this guy is standing beside him, by the way, but he was making sure he was going to get some camera time. Here we go.
There are three key factors what we're going to do today. First, we've made incredible progress advancing America's economic recovery. We've wound down pandemic relief programs like the ones on unemployment insurance and small businesses. It's time we do the same thing for student loans. Student loan payments pause is going to end. It's going to end December 30. I'm extending to December 31st, 2022, and it's going to end at that time.
Oh, wow. Of course, after the midterms, right? You guys catch this, right? Okay.
It's time for the payments to resume. Second, my campaign for president, I made a commitment. That would provide student debt relief, and I'm honoring that commitment today. Using the authority Congress granted the Department of Education, we will forgive $10,000 in outstanding federal student loans. In addition, students who come from low-income families, which allowed them to qualify to receive a Pell Grant, will have their debt reduced $20,000. Both of these targeted actions are for families who need it the most. Working and middle-class people hit especially hard during the pandemic, making under $125,000 a year.
Did you notice he didn't mention poor? See, I've been pointing this out multiple times. Every time these politicians talk about class, they'll mention middle class, they'll mention working class, but you never hear them mention people who are poor. And if you don't think that poor people don't have student loans, you're wrong. If you think that working class people don't have student loans, you're wrong. So I just want to let you know that I know people myself that came from poor families, single parent families, and they have a lot of student loan debt. It's like they don't want to say that word. It's like, it's just, they don't care about poor people. Pay attention to that.
You make more than that, you don't qualify. No high-income individual or high-income household on top of the 5%, in the top 5% of incomes, by the way, will benefit from this action, period.
What's high income, though? So this is something we need to talk about. This $125,000 a year. So that's where the cutoff is. If you make more than that, you don't benefit from this. You will not receive the $10,000 or the $20,000 relief. But let's talk about what's considered high income and cost of living. If you make $125,000 and you live in San Francisco, is that really a high income? No, it's not. If you make $125,000 and you live in New York City, is that really a high income? No, it's not. This is why I said he shouldn't have means tested it. Also, by the way, the student gov website is kind of caught in a glitch, by the way. They don't know how to handle this. They don't have the bandwidth to handle this means testing. They don't. This is going to be a mess. I'm letting you know right now. They're already confused. Now they got to figure out who's in this bracket, who's in that bracket. If they don't already have your income information, you're going to have to actually fill out an application. I'm going to get into that in just a second. But this is all over the place. So when we talk about high income, I think it's important to mention the cost of living, and that is different depending on where you live. So you may make, let's say you make $127,000 a year, but you have over $300,000 in student loan debt, and you live in San Francisco or you live in New York City. These things need to be discussed. This is the same problem I had with the stimulus checks. I said, why are you means testing it? Just give it to everybody, damn it.
In fact, about 90% of the eligible beneficiaries make under $75,000 as family. Here's what that means. If you make under $125,000, you get $10,000 knocked off your student debt. If you make under $125,000 a year and you received a Pell Grant, you'll get an additional $10,000 knocked off that total, for a total of $20,000 relief. 95% of the borrowers can benefit from these actions. That's 43 million people. Of the 43 million, over 60% are Pell Grant recipients. That's 27 million people who will get $20,000 in debt relief. Nearly 45% can have their student debt fully canceled. That's 20 million people who can start getting on with their lives. All this means people can finally crawl out from under that mountain of debt.
Bruh, $10,000 is not a mountain of debt. Look, let me explain something here. $10,000 for most people does not even cover the interest. I'm serious. So he's actually pretending like here that this $10,000 is just going to clear out everyone. No, it won't. That's why I said this was crumbs. Now, I do understand Pell Grant recipients, they are coming from, that's needs-based. So they are coming from a family that is typically more like lower income. I get that. I totally get that. But the means testing to me is just, this is going to be a clusterfuck for the student gov site. Watch. This didn't make any sense to me. He should have canceled all of it, but he is not going to do that. And I'm going to tell you why. 2 reasons. Number one, he is not going to cancel all of it because that would actually hinder recruitment for the military industrial complex. The military industrial complex, in reference to recruiting, they particularly target people who are in low income Black and brown neighborhoods. They target those students. I know from experience. My dad was one of them. That's who they target. So if you cancel all the student loan debt, now the military office, same thing with free public college. They don't really have much to offer anymore to these kids in these low income neighborhoods in reference to recruiting them to the military, and military recruitment is down. That's number one. Number two, he's not going to cancel all of it because the predatory student loan companies are in bed with DC. You have student loan companies like Sallie Mae, Navient, whatever their name wants to be tomorrow, because they switch names. They have people on the Hill to make sure that companies like them stay in business. And by the way, that's not something I'm just thinking. I know that for a fact because they said that to my face. That's right. At my job, 2 of their representatives said that to my face, to a whole classroom of students, by the way. That's why he won't cancel all of it. Because the military industrial complex would have a field day. They would be pissed. How do you expect us to recruit now? Let's go back in a little bit. I have more to go over here. There's more.
To get on top of the rent and the utilities. To finally think about buying a home or starting a family or starting a business. And by the way, when this happens, the whole economy is better off. In the coming weeks, the Department of Education will lay out in detail a short and simple form to apply for this relief.
Oh boy, I've heard of this before. So let me get this straight. That $10,000 is now going to make it able for you to buy a home? $10,000? You can go buy homes now? Okay. We've heard about these short forms that you have to fill out before. Let's see how this goes.
Along with information when this application process opens. By resuming student loan payments at the same time as we provide targeted relief, we're taking an economically responsible course. As a consequence, about $50 billion a year will start coming back into the Treasury because of resumption of debt. Independent experts agree that these actions taken together will provide real benefits for families without meaningful effect on inflation. Let's be clear. I hear it all the time. How do we pay for it? We pay for it by what we've done. Last year, we cut the deficit by more than $350 billion. This year, we're on track to cut it by more than $1.7 trillion by the end of this fiscal year, the single largest deficit reduction in a single year in the history of America. And the Inflation Reduction Act is going to cut it by another $300 billion over the next decade because Medicare will be paying less for prescription drugs, and over $1 trillion if you add it out for the next 2 decades. The point is this: there's plenty of deficit reduction to pay for the programs, cumulative deficit reduction to pay for the programs many times over. I will never apologize for helping Americans, working Americans, middle class.
There we go again. Working Americans and middle class. You see this? I told you, they don't care about, they don't mention poor people. They don't mention people in poverty. They don't want to say, oh, don't say that word. No, let's not go there. But is it really helping out those people? No. Here's something I want you to think about. A lot of people have been arguing about this over the past day or two. A lot of people have been arguing about it. I have some things I want to show you in reference to this that I think maybe some people have not spoken about. First of all, let's look at what it actually says here on the studentaid.gov website. I'm going straight to the source. The Biden-Harris administrative student debt relief plan explained. Let's go down to this portion here. The final extension of student loan repayment pause. So this is letting you know here that payments will resume again in 2023. Now, providing targeted debt relief to low and middle income families. So again, this is what Biden was saying, that the U.S. Department will provide up to $20,000 in debt cancellation to Pell Grant recipients with loans held by the Department of Education, and up to $10,000 in debt cancellation to non-Pell Grant recipients. Borrowers eligible, your income has to be less than $125,000 as an individual, or $250,000 for households. So if you're married and you have an extra income coming in there. Now, I want to remind people that these apply to the federal loans. This does not apply to any of you that have taken out private student loans. And I know people, a lot of people who have done that. They had federal student loans, but that still wasn't enough. So they also had to take out private student loans as well. So that doesn't apply to that. So people like Sally Mae, they do some federal and they do some private. They're still going to, make their money. Another thing that I want to mention to you, which I think is very important, and I don't know if everyone has discussed this as well. What you have to understand is that when these loans go back into repayment in January, the interest is going to start again. Now, I believe they're trying to cap this at 5% so that it won't go above that. But if you got the $10,000 relief, and let's say you still owe $60,000 in student loan debt, that'll knock you down to $50,000. January comes again, the interest is going to start accruing on those loans again. So if your living wage has not increased, you are still going to be in the same position that you were in before, because if your wage hasn't increased and the interest is continuing to accrue, which it will up into that cap, are you going to be able to pay off your typical monthly payment and the interest? And if the answer is no, if you can only afford the monthly payment and not the extra interest, then the interest is going to continue to accrue. You're still going to have a long time to pay off these debt. This is the problem. This is the problem. Do you guys hear what I'm saying here? If you have not received an increase in your living wage, are you going to be able to pay off your regular monthly payment and the interest? Because if you don't pay on the interest will continue to accrue, and it's going to take you longer to pay off the debt. This is why some people who have had $40,000 in student loans actually have already paid $70,000 and they still owe money on it. So something has to change. Now, see, this is a catch-22, because if you are on this income-based repayment plan, income-based repayment plan, which is one of the options for federal student loans, then that's based on your income, right? Okay. If your income increases, what happens is you have to send this form to them updated every year to let them see what your income is. When your income increases, guess what? Your student loan monthly payment will also increase. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? There's no getting out of this. Why am I talking to people who are 50, 60 years old and they still over $20,000, $30,000 on student loans? Debt Collective has spoken out about this a lot, and they said this is a mistake. He should have gotten rid of all of it. There are a group of 50-year-old student borrowers who are planning to go on a student loan strike. They're a part of Debt Collective, and they said, if he doesn't cancel all of it, I'm not paying it, period. This is why I'm telling you guys again, this is a Band-Aid. So for people cheering this on, applause, 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 applause for what? You're not getting ahead unless that $10,000 is going to knock out the rest of your college, your student loan debt. You are not getting ahead. Now, what's that, Lucretia? Yeah, I have about $17,000 in interest. See? And you notice he said, we got to start back paying on these loans. So that's going to start back in January. Yeah, he did it long enough just to get past the midterms, right? They are really playing us. They're really playing us. I want to remind you, they just sent another $3 billion to Ukraine. But when it comes to us, they want to give us crumbs. Fuck that. Now, let's go back in here, because there's one portion here that I do want to draw your attention to as well. Let me go down here. Make the student loan system more manageable for current and future borrowers. Income-based repayment plans have long existed with the U.S. Department of Education. That's what I was just talking about. So it goes on here to say, the new income-driven repayment plan that will substantially reduce future monthly payments for lower and middle income borrowers. The rule would require borrowers to pay no more than 5% of their discretionary income monthly on undergraduate loans. So that's that 5 that I was talking about there, that 5%. This is down from 10% available under the most recent income-driven repayment plan. Raise the amount of income that is considered non-discretionary income and therefore is protected for repayment, guaranteeing that no borrower earning under 225% of the federal poverty level, about the annual equivalent of a $15 minimum wage for a single borrower, will have to make a monthly payment. So again, basically, you have to be under poverty level. You see what? This is really sad. Forgive loan balances after 10 years of payments instead of 20 years for borrowers with loan balances of $12,000 or less. So that now they've changed that to 10 years. That's still too long. I'm going to show you guys some numbers in just a second. That's still too long. That's ridiculous. Cover the borrower's unpaid monthly interest so that unlike other existing income-driven repayment plans, no borrower's loan balance will grow as long as they make their monthly payments, even when that monthly payment is zero because their income is low. So, guys, please be sure that you read over all of this. I'm going to go to some other things about this as well, but I want you to go directly to the studentaid.gov website and read this in detail, because the way that this was announced is not as easy as it sounds. Number one, it sounds like you may have to fill out a form. That's another thing. I don't know if everybody's going to have to fill out that form. I think that is going to be very stressful for the studentaid.gov people. Like, I'm telling you, this is going to be a mess. I just know, having worked in higher ed, having dealt with financial aid, this is going to be a mess. I don't even know if they have the capacity to deal with it. Go to this site, and Eric, please put this link in the chat and read over it yourself. Don't just go off of the announcement, the speech that you heard Joe Biden make. You need to read this in detail. So please definitely check that out if this applies to you. Also, there's another thing, and hopefully this won't happen, but there is also the issue, the fact that the Supreme Court can jump in and stop all of this. Like I said, hopefully that does not happen. Now, am I glad that people are getting some relief? Yes. Do I think it's enough? Hell no. He should have canceled all of it. And I have another thing to talk about as well in reference to the student loan debt. One of the promises that Joe Biden made in reference to student loans was that he was going to forgive student loan debt for students that went to historically Black colleges. What happened to that? So you see, because once again, Black people are put at the bottom. What happened to that promise? You told all those kids in Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman, you told them to come out and support you. You told them you would forgive student loan debt for HBCU students. You know that Black people have the most student loan debt, particularly Black women. And I want to show you something about that in just a second. Let me put it up here. Yes, case study clip this. You guys need to hear this, because I'm telling you, we knew that HBC thing was a lie. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is not enough. So let's hear this, and I have some other figures I'm going to show you too.
When you look at the adult population,
here we go.
These debt issues are not equally impacting folks. Black students, for example, have a much greater racial disparity in their payments. When you look at the adult population, Black adults carry on this debt burden longer than their white adult counterparts, according to data from the census. So that is why the NAACP, for example, is saying that perhaps this threshold should be raised to $50,000, and it would create some more economic parity on a broader scale.
Yeah, they're unhappy with this. They said the plan cannot become the latest example of a policy that has left Black people, especially Black women, behind.
These debt issues are not equally impacted.
Even the NAACP is speaking out about it. People need to hear about this, because it's true. Like, this is not going to affect Black student borrowers the way it's going to affect white ones. It's not. I'm telling you from experience. And there's something else I need to show you in reference to that. Let me go ahead and pull this up here, because there has been this tagline going around that is not true, and we need to put a stop to it. And this goes back to Nina Turner and Sandy Darity. And Sandy Darity tried to correct Nina Turner multiple times. And we need to talk about this. Let's go in here. Nina Turner tweeted this. Now, this was August 11th, and I held on to this to see if Biden was going to cancel anything. And then I said, I'm going to bring this in when it happens. She said, canceling just $50,000 of student debt per person would immediately increase Black Americans' wealth by 40%. It should all be canceled. What's the problem with that statement? The problem is that's not true. And I hope when you hear this, you pass this on to as many people as possible, because I keep hearing people make this statement and it's not true. Now, luckily, Sandy Darity is able to explain that, because he goes on to say, and he said this to Nina Turner, he replied to her. He said, I favor student debt cancellation, but at best, it would raise wealth only for Black folk holding student loan debt. Vast majority don't. And it will have virtually no impact on the racial wealth gap. Why do you keep repeating this dubious statistic? So, and I'm going to show you what he's talking about. And he's right. People think that because when they hear people say that Black people have the largest amount of student loan debt, yes, that's true. But the majority of Black Americans don't have student loan debt. You see where I'm going with this? Now, let me show you, because this is from Sandy Darity's research. Again, he really has this down. Here we go. He even linked it in the tweet. Now, Sandy Darity has done a lot of research on reparations for descendants of slavery in the United States. He's done a lot of research on it. But there's something in particular in this portion where he talks about the student loan debt. Now, this is called the true cost of closing the country's racial wealth gap. So let's go down to that section. Should have highlighted it here, but I know it's right here. Here we go. This portion right here, and then we'll go to the next paragraph. Now, listen to this. Again, he's done research on this for years. Okay. These figures indicate why policies like forgiving all student debt and providing universal baby bonds to the entire population won't be nearly enough. These programs are worthwhile, and I support them. In fact, I helped design an early baby bonds proposal. While these approaches can do much good to help both the poor and the middle class, they won't close the Black-white wealth gap. And he's going to explain why. This paragraph right here. Excuse me. All right. First, consider student debt. Black Americans would gain disproportionately from student loan debt relief because they have larger average levels of higher education debt. $23,400 compared to $16,000 for white students. After accounting for the higher enrollment rate of white students, erasing student debt would result in an average Black gain in wealth of $8,424 and a white gain of $6,560. This translates into a reduction in the racial wealth gap of less than $1,900. It would reduce the median gap of $54,700 by 3% and the mean gap of $280,300 by less than 1%. So do you guys see the problem here? So this line where people are saying, let me pull it back up again, because that was the Nina tweet. This line where Nina Turner's saying here, canceling $50,000 of student debt per person would immediately increase Black Americans' wealth by 40%. That is not true. And people keep saying it. I don't know where this is going. A lot of people, especially on the left, they keep saying it. It's going to close the racial wealth gap. No, it won't. Pass that on to your friends too. Let them know the truth about that. Sandy Darity, you can look him up. Marianne Williamson is very well familiar with Sandy Darity. She talked to him about reparations before she ran for president, because that was one of the plans she had as a part of her campaign. I know this because I interviewed her about that. So I wish people would stop that. There's a lot of people spreading that rumor, and it's not true. And all they have to do is just talk to someone like him about it. Now, there's one more thing I do want to show you, and we're just going to have a little bit of fun. I think that's the last thing I have to show you. We're going to have a little bit of fun, a little classroom time, if we want to call it that. Because I want to show you what it looks like for someone, let's say today, trying to pay this off. Now, I'm going to share my screen here. Let's go have some fun, guys. We're going to look at what it looks like for someone, let's say they just graduated from college here in Boston, and we're going to look at their expenses, and we're going to see why it can be so difficult. Now, when I made this, I want you to keep in mind that this is a person who does the bare minimum. They pretty much get up in the morning, they go to work, and they come home. They're not going out every night. They're not spending a lot of money out on food. So this is the extreme. Take that in mind. This is someone who is trying their best to save money, to get out of debt. They just graduated from college. They got their first gig. But this is not typical. And I wanted to show you this example because when people say, if you guys didn't eat avocados, if you guys stopped drinking like these Frappuccinos, excuse me, which by the way, I don't even drink coffee, so it's funny. This is someone not doing that. So let's see this. So this is Anime Sabby. So this is Anime Sabby, and she just graduated from college in May. So let's find out a little bit about her. Meet Sabby. She just got a job offer making $55,000 a year in Boston. Now, in Massachusetts, after taxes, that's actually going to amount to $43,085 after taxes. So $55K offer is going to end up being around $43,085 after taxes. Sabby is not high maintenance. Sabby is trying to be as minimalist as possible as she can. She has a 3-bedroom apartment and she has 2 roommates in Allston in Boston, which is where Boston University is, one of the cheaper neighborhoods to live in. So she's not trying to live beyond her means. 3-bedroom apartment, 2 roommates. These are her monthly costs. For rent, her share is $1,166. The 3-bedroom apartment costs $3,500 a month in total. That's actually a little bit on the cheaper end. Again, I'm trying to be generous here. For utilities, Sabby's share is $175 a month, $350 total for the apartment. So her roommates will pick up the other portion. Internet, Sabby's portion is $52 a month. Total is $155 for the entire apartment. That's actually not bad. I've actually had to pay more than that before. Cable expenses, $0. You know why? Because Sabby, like a lot of the Gen Z kids, Sabby don't have cable. Keeping it real, trying to be realistic here. So she saves there. But Sabby and her roommates do have Netflix. Sabby pays $5 for the Netflix. The total is $15, so her roommates pick up the other $10 there. Now, Sabby does buy groceries, and her roommates do not like to share food, so Sabby has to get her own groceries. That also is not uncommon. I'm just being honest with you. She spends about $120 a month on groceries. Again, like I said, her roommates don't share food. For public transportation, Sabby pays $55 a month. Her company pays for half, so that's why she only pays $55. Typically, an MBTA card, unlimited pass, costs way more than that, but a lot of the companies here will cover at least about half of that. So she only pays $55, and that comes out of her paycheck. But Sabby has student loans. So Sabby's student home payment is $330 a month. This is based on her income. Again, I'm being generous. It could be higher than that, but that's roughly about, if I remember correctly, that's roughly about what it would be. Now, every now and then, Sabby likes to go out with her friends and eat, but for dining out, she's very tight with her money, so she's only paying $75, about $75 a month to go out to eat. Again, that is really not the norm. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. But since Sabby started this new job, they want her to wear business attire, which Sabby doesn't have that. She's a college student, broke kid, just graduated. So she has to go buy clothes for her work. She's spending about $125 a month doing that, needs business attire for work. By the way, that's on the low end. If you're buying dress clothes, if you have to get like slacks and things like that, that's actually on the low end. She's trying to be thrifty. For entertainment, she's spending about $60 a month. That's like going to the movies or if she goes bowling. Miscellaneous items, $50 a month. That includes things like feminine products, makeup, toilet paper, things like that. Car payment is $0. You know why? Sabby doesn't have a car because she can't afford one. Because she doesn't have a car, her car insurance is $0. So again, no car. Alcohol-related activities. This Sabby, well, anime Sabby, not this Sabby, but anime Sabby doesn't drink. So she spends no money on alcohol at all. Again, I'm trying to be nice here. Credit card is $0. You know why? Sabby doesn't have any credit cards. Now, this is pretty much, I would say pretty much as tight as you could get in Boston. Most people are not living this way. I'm just saying. Now, let's see what this is going to look like for her. Her total monthly expenses are $2,213. As you can see, most of the money goes to rent. Then student loans coming after that. Her monthly take home from her paycheck after taxes is $3,590. After monthly expenses, she's left with $1,377 a month. Again, this is assuming that nothing else goes wrong. This is assuming that there are no unexpected expenses that come up. Just keep that in mind. Her total yearly expenses are $26,556. Her take home, her yearly take home, again, is the $43,085. And after you subtract her total yearly expenses, she's left with $16,529 annually. Now, Sabby decides to take $10,000 of that and put it into a savings account. After her savings, she's left with $6,529. Here is something that is important for you to take in. Even with this, even with the budget this strict, it would still take her years to afford a down payment on a home in Massachusetts. If they buy a home, then they will also need to buy a car. So then she would have to pay a car payment and car insurance. But do you guys see what I'm trying to point out? This is someone here who's barely spending any money on their self. Most of the money is going to rent, going to student loans. And so they're able to put aside $10,000 for a savings account. This is not the norm. And even in this situation, it would still take her $10,000 a year. It would still take her years to put a down payment on a home in Eastern Massachusetts. This is the problem. Because most people, let me zoom out here. I zoomed in too far. Most people don't live like this. Most people, again, this is assuming, what happened to Sabby's face? This is assuming that nothing else goes wrong. What happens if Sabby has an unexpected medical expense? What happens if she has to have a procedure and she gets an expensive bill from the emergency room? What happens if a pipe busts in her apartment and her roommates have to move out? Does she still have that $10,000 in savings? No, because if she has to get another apartment, she's going to have to put down 3 times the rent. These are things that happen. These aren't things I'm making up. I've seen these things happen. So even when you're living like this, it still would take you forever. Forever. She would need to have another income, someone else coming in. How's she going to get married? How's she going to have, can she afford a family? What's that, Bryce? Bryce said Sabby is fucked. I'm just saying. What's that, Pat? Why do you need to buy a car if you have the house? Pat, have you seen the public transportation system? Once you leave the city, the orange line is shut down for 30 days. Part of the green line is shut down for 30 days. The commuter rail is not reliable. This is why I never got rid of my car. I know some people did. I kept my car because it was paid for, but I'm glad I didn't, because it's just, you can't rely on it. Isn't this sad? So this is why Sabby is a little not happy in this picture, because she's just kind of like, the fuck? This is assuming she has no vacations, can't go to the beach with your friends. This is somebody literally just basically getting up and going to work and coming home. That's how they want you to live. What is that, Johanna? Anime Sabby hasn't brushed her teeth with this budget. That's how they want you to live. And some of my students, they were minimalist. I had students that didn't have furniture, like in their, they just didn't have, they want to spend more money. So I know people who have tried to do these extremes, and it's still hard. This is the problem, guys. What's that, Nom? It looks really helpful. Someone asked me if they could get this. I don't know how to send it to people. Actually, if you email me, my email address is attached in the details tab. I can send it to you. Tailgater says, wake up, we need to flee this goddamn country. Yeah. By the way, the numbers that I gave you, I was being generous. The numbers in reference to the rent, the utilities. I was trying to be nice. I don't know. Yeah. And by the way, this isn't me per se, but you want to talk about that salary that I was showing you there, that $55K per year? That's not uncommon for students. I worked at Boston University. That's not uncommon for students graduating from BU. some of them graduating from master's program being offered $55,000. I'm not kidding. I that was my job. I saw that shit. Does anime Sabby buy lotto tickets? She does not. She does not. Yeah, I mean, that's not a lot of money in Boston. But that's what they're offering. They're offering these kids graduating from Boston University, Northeastern University, and they're offering these kids these poverty wages to live in the city. They know you can't live off that. Come on. That's why I said cancel all of it.